If you like motorhome wild camping or staying off grid with your van, you need to watch this video about the Motorhome Wild Camping Bill and possibly get alcohol. I think this might go better with alcohol. Hey, I'm Kat and welcome to Wandering Bird. On this channel we share practical tips to help you make the most of your motorhome and campervan, and if you followed us for a while you'll know that we love wild camping with our motorhome. If you're new to the channel and you've never watched anything by us before, hi, I'm Kat and we love wild camping with our motorhome. Now if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you have heard about the Motorhome Wild Camping Bill and you're worried about the fact that people are talking about if you stay off-grid or stay on somebody's land without their permission, then your van could be impounded, you could be put in prison, you could get a criminal record, you could get fined thousands and thousands of pounds. Hand up if you've heard any of those. If you're actually sitting there with your hand up at the moment. Mwah! Yes, that's the Motorhome Wild Camping Bill, except that it's not. If you don't know what I'm talking about or you'd like a quick refresher, allow me to try and bring us all up to the same page in less than 60 seconds. There is a new bill currently going through Parliament called the Police, Crime, Sentencing and Courts Bill. The bill is 300 pages long and no, I haven't read it all word for word. One of the things that it is focusing on is moving the crime of trespassing from a civil to a criminal crime. In order to do this effectively, the government want to introduce tougher punishments if the law is broken and increase the powers that the police and the other agencies will have to help move people on if they're causing problems to the landowners. Part of these tougher measures include the rights to seize a vehicle or other property or to impose fines. That is what the PCSC, can we just call it the Wild Camping Bill for the sake of my brain, is trying to do. It's basically trying to crack down on people who are staying on land and causing a nuisance overnight. That bill is currently going through Parliament at the moment. Now, I'll be honest, I have put off making any sort of statement or comment or just getting involved because there have been some fantastic videos made on the subject, but there have also been an awful lot of over-the-top sensationalist clickbaity stuff. And the problem is people are feeding off each other. So somebody publishes an article on a blog about how if you wild camp with your motorhome, your van will be impounded, which then gets regurgitated in another website somewhere else. And some, I would say, fairly highly respected institutions have put out either a video or an online magazine article, basically just inflammatory. I was in a Facebook group the other day, thankfully not my own, and I saw an entire post about this just blowing up with a lot of people regurgitating what they've read or what they've watched online, and people are so confused and they are sharing misinformation. Here we go, I'm channeling my inner Trump. It's all fake news. It's not all fake news. Some of it is very real news and some of it is going to cause us issues. But my aim for this video is to try and cut through the fake news and let's just deal with the actual facts. Now, I should probably say at this point, for those of you who need it, I'm not a lawyer. I've never had any legal training. I can't offer you any legal advice. I've also not read the entire 300-page bill in all its legal jargon. But I have done a lot of research from people that I feel are respected sources and who know a lot more about what they're talking about than I do. And I've spent an awful lot of time collating evidence and information in order to put this together for you in what I hope is a balanced way so that we can actually deal with the facts. I hope. Quite frankly, there's an awful lot of uncomfortable truths that we're going to need to talk about, and also things that are just plain wrong about what people are saying. Let's talk about motorhoming in the UK as it stands right now. Now, our very first ever time that we spent wild camping in our motorhome was in Scotland. It was terrifying. If you haven't heard the story, I'll leave a link to it somewhere for you. We didn't know what we were doing. We did everything wrong. Admittedly, the first time we tried it was in a national park near Loch Lomond. I always pronounce this wrong and people always correct me and I can never remember the correct pronunciation when I have to come and say it. So by all means correct me again because it obviously hasn't sunk in. But we were in that national park where you can't wild camp because it's a national park. And this is the big thing that everybody is either forgetting or just glossing over. You can't legally wild camp anywhere in the UK. And I've said this in several videos. We don't have a legal right to wild camp like they do in Norway. If you're in a tent, not a motorised vehicle, there are some bylaws in Scotland, and I think a lot of people getting confused. I did a video on this trying to clarify the confusions, but it's not a legal right in the UK to overnight camp off-grid anywhere you feel like with your motorhome or your campervan. It's just not. People still do it. Heck, we still do it. But if you are asked to move on, you have to move on. That's part of the risks of not paying for a campsite and staying somewhere. I get the attraction to wild camping, and I get the frustration with not wanting to book a campsite 3 months in advance. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight, and it's freaking 4 o'clock. No clue what we're going to eat tonight, and I've got no clue where we're going to be in 3 months, although... 3 months we might be in Norway. But I couldn't tell you where in Norway we're going to be. I couldn't book a campsite for there. I couldn't book a campsite for... We're going to Wales in a couple of weeks, fingers crossed, we hope. I have no clue. Either I've got no clue what day we're going to be there for a start, and I've got no clue where in Wales we're going to go. I can't book a campsite. I totally get that appeal of the freedom of wild camping. But the uncomfortable truth remains that it's not strictly legal. And this, I think, is one of the biggest things that confuses me about the reaction to what the bill is proposing. People are like they're taking away our rights, but they're not, because we don't have them in the first place. We are technically breaking the law when we choose to wild camp in a labour. However, at the moment, it is a civil problem, which means that the police, in all fairness, can't do a whole lot about it. What the bill is trying to do is make it a criminal problem. It's been promoted as a way to deal with, you call them eco warriors, or people who are just using vans to block roads to cause trouble, or they are deliberately staying on somebody's land and they will not move on. It gives the police the power to move those vehicles and to move the people who are causing the disturbances. Now, we go out of our way to stay in out of the way areas. We try never to stay on near a seafront or near somebody's house or anywhere that could be construed as causing a problem. We never try to stealth camp. We're in a motorhome, for goodness sake, although I know some motorhomers like to try and stealth camp in cities, but we avoid cities like the plague as much as we possibly can. So we are generally in places like forestry car parks, really quiet, out of the way spots that unless you're walking a dog, most people don't even know we're there, and we arrive late in the evening and we leave early in the morning. The other thing that I think most people either don't know or are just kind of ignoring is the fact that the police already have the right to seize a vehicle. This is not going to be a new thing. It says in the law, the seizure powers are already conferred on police in relation to failure to comply with a police direction to leave the land. And this is under the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994. They already can in certain conditions, but they have the right to seize your vehicle if you don't comply with whatever those conditions are. And I don't know them all, not a lawyer, but they have that right to seize your van. There has been a petition, I think there's actually been a couple of petitions, but there's one that's gained a lot of traction. It needed to get over 10,000 signatures in order to get a government response. It got that on the 26th of July. That was when the government response came through. And if you read the response, they've underlined the fact that the reason that they want to keep the vehicle seizure power, which is in Part 4 of the bill, is so that it can strengthen the police powers to tackle unauthorised encampments where they are causing significant harm to those affected in specific conditions. The conditions apply to people residing on land in or with a vehicle who cause significant damage, disruption or distress, and who do not leave when asked to do so. Those residing on land in a vehicle who do not cause significant harm will not be caught by the new offence. And this is literally what it boils down to. If you pull up, and for the love of God, please don't pull up in someone's driveway or in someone's back garden or blocking a house on the seafront with the sea view with your van, because they're going to complain. Of course they're going to complain. But honestly, if you are used to staying off grid with your van in discreet park-ups, like in the middle of forest where they don't have big signs saying you're not allowed to stay overnight, and you accept the fact that should you be knocked on by a police and asked to move at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you comply, there's no difference to right now. Now, there are a lot of people saying, yes, that's what they say at the moment, but they could change the mind and they could then lock up the vans. Do you honestly think that the police are desperately trying to go around and seize a load of motorhomes? Admittedly, at the moment, it might be a good thing. But if you're not causing distress, disturbances, dumping a load of waste where you really shouldn't be, and generally making a nuisance of yourself, and you move on when you're asked to, there's nothing that you're doing should allow them to make that into any form of criminal trespassing case. You're just being asked to move on by the police. Now, in all our times wild camping in the UK, we've never been asked to move on. However, we have in Belgium. We didn't do it very well. We broke all of our rules. So we were camped by the canal in Belgium. It's a really stunning spot. We were in the middle of nowhere, but there were houses on the other side of the road. And we stayed there overnight, not a problem at all. A couple of vans stayed there overnight. But in the morning, my husband had to talk to a client. So we were like, we'll just stay here. And then when we stayed there, we got out some chairs because I was young and naive and didn't know any better. So we got out some chairs and we sat out, and he was having his phone call, and somebody in the houses obviously thought that we'd moved in for the next 17 years and had no plans on leaving. Actually, we were going to leave by lunchtime, but they didn't know that. And then the police turned up and asked us to move. So what did we do? We moved. Did they do anything? No, we packed up and we left. Slightly embarrassing, I'll admit, but we just left. We didn't even give them our names. Fine, they could have taken our reg, I suppose, but it was not a big deal. And I really, really believe that if you are a responsible wild camper, and honestly, I don't care whether you call it wild camping or motorhome overnight park-ups or off-grid park-ups or stealth camping, although stealth camping I feel is slightly different because you're deliberately trying to hide the fact that you're staying in your van. But if you are used to staying in out-of-the-way areas for one night only, and it's basically like a sleeping spot where you pull up late and you leave early and you don't cause disruption and you don't leave waste behind, I don't believe that there is going to be a major difference. I honestly don't. But I can see them using those powers to stop people who are causing disruptions, to stop people who are damaging the environment, to stop people who are just being obnoxious and giving the rest of us a really bad name. I don't think it's going to be as bad as half the people are making it out to be. I could be wrong. And if I am, I apologise in advance, but I can't see it. I cannot see the limited police force in this country going around and impounding hundreds, possibly even thousands of vans. Now, one thing that is a pain that is changing is the fact that it no longer needs to be the landowner who is complaining. And if you're on my email list, you'll have read a couple of stories this week where there have been so much animosity towards motorhome and van owners, and people who aren't van owners just seem to be going out of their way to cause carnage. Not everyone, of course, not every non-van owner hates motorhomers or campervan owners, but I know my parents who live in Devon are frustrated by how busy the roads are. And, you know, they're not anti-van by any means, but they are, the whole country is just congested. You know, places like the NC500, which we were going to go up to, and people are just like, just don't, it's just carnage. There have been talks about people throwing eggs. There was a story somebody shared in the Facebook group about people driving on the wrong side to try and ram the motor. It's just been chaos. I believe there are some bad feelings, not helped by the general media who are sharing sensationalist stories and basically tarring every van or motorhome owner with the same brush when it is actually just a few selfish idiots and the rest of us are pretty responsible. And that really winds me up. But there is a feeling of animosity at the moment towards van owners because there are so many more van owners and everybody's staying in the UK and there is just not enough road space or parking spaces for everybody all at once. It's just been a really bad year. So the sad thing is the Karens of this world, and if you don't get the Karen reference, just the people who are waiting to just cause chaos. You all know who I'm talking about. The people who just love to phone the police, but there is a van parked in the lay-by 17 miles from my house, but I feel compelled to report it even though they are doing nothing wrong. They're just parked there. I feel compelled that the police should know about this. There are going to be people like that, and that if it becomes a criminal offence, I think the police are compelled to do something about it, whereas as a civil thing they're not, unless it's the actual landowner that has been that has reported and said there's somebody on my land, they won't leave, I've asked them to go, help me get these off. Now I believe if anybody reports a van staying, or when the law passes, I believe if anybody reports a van anywhere parked in any form of wild camping spot, there is a possibility that police will have to react. So we may find ourselves being moved on more often. If you're nervous or worried, stay in a cheap campsite, and there are plenty of places that you can stay that are cheap, overnight approved parking spots. I wish with all of my heart that the UK had a better air system like they have in Europe. I really, really wish. I wish it was easier to get water and empty waste and just find safe places to park up without fear of retribution. But sadly, the infrastructure that we have and the mentality that we have in the UK toward motorhomes and campervans, it just doesn't look like it's going to go that way. The really good thing about lockdown and the way things have evolved is that there are more and more spots which are happy for motorhomers to stay overnight, or park overnight I should say, for a small fee. So there are things like rugby clubs and rowing clubs and leisure centres, and many pubs do them. People that have got parking spaces that are promoting the fact that you can stay there overnight. No, they've got no facilities. Admittedly, some leisure centres will let you use their showers or whatever, but most of them have got no facilities. It's just a parking space. But at least you know if you're paying for the right to park there, you're not going to get moved on overnight. So it may well be that these are almost like baby heirs, that there are more and more of them, and the network of them grows, and people hear about this and think, oh, that's a great idea, I've got this business, I'll let you stay overnight in, you know, the car park for £5. If you want to learn how to find those places, I'll link to the videos here. But hopefully that network will continue to grow. There are some groups that are doing a really good job at trying to promote them, the value of them, to local councils, and some local councils are jumping on board and being like, yes, you know, as this wave increases and people have more vans, we want to make better provisions for them. A lot of park and rides now have motorhome overnight parking as well, by the way, just something to look at. I've noticed an awful lot of them have got only a few spaces, but you only need a few spaces. And again, they don't have facilities, but it's a space that you can pay to stay in overnight, and you're not going to be worried about moved on. If you are concerned about the bill, if you're concerned about the violence towards motorhomes, if you're concerned about the fact that wild camping seems to be just getting slightly more difficult, find some of these smaller independent spots that allow you to stay overnight and use them, support them, show them that it's a brilliant idea that they're allowing vans to stay there. Respect the space, clean up after yourself, and hopefully those spaces will increase and there'll be more and more of them that we can use without having to book a freaking campsite months in advance. I really love the spaces that are popping up. They're like, no, you can't book, you just turn up. We have 5 spaces available for vans, and it's on a first come first served basis, which is exactly how the airs work in Europe. And I think that's brilliant. And that way you can just travel, and hopefully if there are enough of them, we will get a network where we can all just move around and stay in safe places without worrying about idiots or vandalism or breaking any laws. If you'd like to know more about motorhome wild camping, how to set up your van, and everything else that you need to know, you might find our motorhome wild camping playlist useful. Safe travels, and I'll see you on the next video. Oh my God. Why? Why did I decide doing this video was a good idea? What was I thinking? This is really hard. Can I have a cupcake yet?